What is your idea of like the power dynamic between the U.S. and Israel the last 30 years? Honestly, I didn't know how influential Israel was in U.S. politics until pretty much this election. Really, not even then. Like when Israel went after Palestine and the entire world said, okay, that's when it became clear to me that Israel ran shit. Like, was actually in control. Whether it was direct control or blackmail control, I did not know how deep that particular rabbit hole went. I was quite ignorant. I thought prior to October 7th, 2023, I was still perpetuating a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. I was ignorant of how bad everything was because there was no quote-unquote reason for me to be more knowledgeable because foreign policy wasn't the driving force at the time. I was focusing more on just building a platform. I wasn't trying to do policy in every area. So I didn't research every facet of foreign relations, right? Had I even bothered, though, I would have learned about AIPAC, I would have learned about Nakba, I would have learned about, the fact that Israel's been committing genocide since 1948 against Palestinians. This time, it's just them not even trying to hide it anymore. So to your point, I am the dynamic between the U.S. and Israel, plus the fact that Israel was the one that pushed for the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, the global war on terror. Because the two towers, although we were going to retaliate in some way, form, or fashion, it took us a year before we actually mobilized. And it was because of Israeli pushing, aggression, pushing for it. So, yeah, no, the dynamic between, the U.S. and Israel, I think has always been one where Israel calls the shots. Bam, is this working? Eh. Alright, so now I can address everybody. I think Israel is like partially in power of the USA. I would argue that Israel is controlling the USA because, again, AIPAC and their influence, the fact that they just flew out 250 legislators to Israel recently, and that everybody in this administration is already parroting Israel. Israel this, Israel that. We stand with Israel. Israel can do no wrong. It is a crime to say anything against Israel, but say whatever the fuck you want about America. No, I think we have been co-opted by a foreign power, which is one of the biggest no-nos in our country. I didn't put it all the way up. All right, now that's better. Sorry. And not just partially, they own most of our elected officials, right? So you covered that. She's a badass. I mean, Assata Shakur, everybody. I hope that most of the people involved are still alive when you become president so that they can be held accountable. Same. I mean, it was 1970-something, and she was 78. So, I can't imagine that there's going to be many that are still alive, but what few there are definitely getting it. And we will go back and posthumously charge these fuckers for crimes against humanity, and we will posthumously pardon and restore Assata Shakur's legacy in the United States. That is guaranteed what we will do. Maybe Israel wanted USA to be anti-Muslim. I don't know. I just find Israel always suspiciously involved with events related to Islamic terror like in 9/11. Yeah. No, Israel has been trying to strip the Middle East since Israel formed. And yes, as soon as Israel formed and America became involved with it, that's when the Middle East became America's problem. So that has been from the very beginning. I'm not even that white. It's because of the lighting in here. It's a dimmed window out there. My daughter says that Sam is not white. I'm still 80% Germanic. I mean, I don't know what to tell y'all. Assata's one of my heroes. She's one of my heroes, I tell you what. She took 2 bullets and was left to bleed out and still survived. Like, I don't know that I could... I'd be like, well, fuck, I'm done. I'm gonna try and live out of spite, but, like, I don't know if I got that much spite in me. Like, damn. I never heard of her, but I am apolitical and not an American. Well, we knew you were apolitical because it's in your name. She is the Francesca Albanese of the past. That's probably quite accurate. I don't know of any political activists that are literally threatened to the same degree. Maybe we could argue Snowden to a very, very small degree. I was thinking maybe also Greta Thunberg, but she's not, like, being terrorized. So yeah, I don't know who would be a good activist that has literally been forced to flee the United States. Since they are no longer legally allowed to do all that stuff to black people, they do it to Latinos by claiming that they are illegal, so they have no rights. Which is crazy because being illegal in America doesn't take away your rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution to all people. So even them claiming that they are illegal and therefore have no rights is false, because the Constitution literally says inalienable rights, meaning everybody gets these rights. Everybody who steps foot on the United States of America has the same rights as everybody else within these walls, within these borders. Which is, again, something that isn't often covered or brought up, obviously. Or I should say we have no rights because, in spite of being a U.S. citizen, the Supreme Court ruled that it's okay to racially discriminate against anyone who looks Latino. And I look definitely Latino. Yeah, no, the Supreme Court violating its own mandate of upholding the Constitution. I mean, slavery was legal, right? So was turning in freed slaves. So was sending slaves who had been freed, who had their papers, who made it to the North, and sending them back to the South. That was legal, all right? There's all sorts of shit that's legal in this country, or was legal in this country, that ain't anymore. And that doesn't mean that it's necessarily correct or even constitutional. And that's something that we really need to fucking hit hard. When Trump sat next to Netanyahu in USA, it looked like he was the president. Oh, yeah, no. Trump next to anybody looks like he's the toddler that is being welcomed into whatever setting the real leadership is. When he met with Putin, it looked like Putin was in charge. When he met with Netanyahu, it looked like Netanyahu was in charge. I think he met... Was he in the same room as Xi? I know that he met with, like, the Saudi princess, like one of them, and he looked like he was completely out of place there as well. 80% Germanic is basically an illegal immigrant. Well, shit. Better watch out for ICE. Asada was pregnant while in jail. So she got shot, healed, knocked up, and then went to prison? That's fucked. What do Americans get promised when all illegal migrants are deported? That's the neat part. They're getting promised that everything will be better again in the country until the next enemy is figured out, and then the next one and the next one, until it's only, you know, poor white people that are left working like slaves under their corporate masters. So the neat part is Americans don't get anything for it other than fascism. They think that they're getting jobs and that all of the benefits the illegals are getting will go to them. The problem is that most Americans don't want the jobs being performed by illegals, and undocumented immigrants don't get benefits. Correct. That's the thing, right? Immigrants, whether on paper or not, are always paid below the regular salary. Always. And if they are illegal workers, right, undocumented, then they are oftentimes not paid at all. They are threatened with deportation. It's like, all right, I'm not going to pay you. Well, you need to pay me. That's a crime. It's like, well, you being here is a crime. Or they'll threaten to hold their passports or not even allow them to leave and go back to their original country. So the cruelty and corruption that goes on with this is trying to, again, every social movement that has ever happened and every white supremacist movement that has happened in this country has always essentially tried to redefine slavery or recreate it. And that culminated in the Civil War, where slavery was abolished. So they had to find their slaves elsewhere, which meant with prison labor, that meant with illegal immigration, that meant with indentured servitude, that meant with something. But it was always amounting to free forced labor.